Hello everyone, my name is Corazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. We've done it. We've made it. We are in episode 50, everyone. And that means that today we're going to take some time away from our projects and all the decoration and adventures and eating. And we're going to go into creative and we're going to take a spin around our world and we're just going to review all the things that we've done up until this point. Now, we have 49 episodes to recap, and since you probably don't recall which episode each project was done in, I'm going to put a little number in the corner right here to show which one it was in. Now, I'm already in creative, but I'm going to make it basically June, make it eternal day so we can see everything that we want to see, remove all the clouds and the rain, and we're going to get to it. I'll see all of you where this all began. All right, everyone, we are here. It is now currently June, so we can see everything in its nice green glory. And we are on the very block where everything started. 38, 117, 39. When we spawned in, this was our view. We had a whole brand new, fresh world before us, unmarred by, well, most humanity. Some ruins still remained from previous ages. But we made our way across this lake over here because I didn't like the look of the land over here. It was very kind of craggy, and that sort of results in difficult to traverse terrain. But I saw over here some flat land and figured, hey, let's go over here. Our very first few nights were spent right out here on the plain. We built a little dirt and cobblestone hut using some materials we scrounged from the landscape. And here we started our survival. We learned how to cook, we learned how to make fire, we learned how to make some tools, and for a very short while, we thrived. In fact, for basically 1.5 episodes, we thrived right here in this little bit of land. Now, this was a dangerous decision, actually, because although we didn't meet any wolves on the way over here on our initial journey, this is actually really bad, heavy wolf territory, and I have since mostly avoided this area because there are wolves galore, usually. Now, in this second season, we basically got down to it right off the bat. In the first season, we had to travel a long ways to find our home location, but here, we settled basically 100 yards or so from where we spent our first night. And so we have a little house here that we made in the second episode, along with the farm. We built this farm here with these little decorative but also functional berry patches and some trees for shade and decoration. And we built this entire house basically start to finish. There were a few features missing at the time. I believe we did the windows a bit later because we started out here with just the fence gate windows, which is fine for the very early game when it's not too cold. And in the third episode, we upgraded our farm area with a bit of a trap here to trap rabbits and drifters. We mostly get drifters because rabbits just, for some reason, managed to avoid this a lot. I think I killed a total of 4 rabbits in this pit here. And then after some exploration, we came back and we finally finished up the rest of the house minus the blacksmith area and the tower, which didn't come till later. But we learned how to do bloomeries and we made some glass windows for our house. Correction, for our starter house. Now, after an episode where we traveled far and wide in search of beehives, we found some, and in episode 7, we brought them back and we made a little bee patch over here. I still haven't updated our bee location yet. So far, this is still working fine. I only harvest this once in a great while because we have so much beeswax. We just don't need the output, which is honestly a good problem to have. But someday soon we will need to come and move our apiary and make it a little closer to home, make it a little more attractive and maybe more Hobbit-like. And then during the course of a multi-episode adventure in learning how to smith and prospect for ores, we built this initial little smithy out here. It used to be stocked with our chests and stacks of ingots and so on, but now it lies empty because we don't really use it anymore. We have moved on to bigger and better things. But this backyard area became the place to do smithing and firing charcoal, which we did exactly once, and also firing clay items in a pit kiln. This is also our initial area where we started doing some dyeing over here, and some leather making over here. And then, after several episodes spent noodling around, adventuring, and doing kind of summertime things, as winter started to draw on, we came back around and we decided to build a barn. Now, our barn we put right next to our agriculture trader right here, whatever your name is, Yoskalo. And this was a one-episode build. We kind of put it together as fast as we could to get the animals in. But for an early game build, I think this holds up pretty well. We did come through and we put some lightning rods in later because we discovered that lightning was killing our chickens. And so that has been amended. But aside from that, this build stands basically exactly as we built it, with the limited materials we had at the time. And of course, inside we have sheep, and we have pigs, and we have chickens over here, who are more numerous than I recall them being. Not bad. And then in episode 17, we made what was the final addition to our house, which was our little, rather humble tower here for our first windmill. Now, unlike in the first season, where we kind of waited to get into wind power until later in the season, I wanted to get some automation going with the quern, because I wanted to make some bricks to use for building, and I wanted to be able to grind grain. We have since removed the windmill sails from our tower here and moved them over there, but it might be nice to come back and put some back on in the future just to have that extra bit of motion here on the landscape, as well as a purpose for this tower. And then, that's right, and then, finally, 18 episodes in, we started the floor plan for our house. Now, I can't show you the original floor plan because it's kind of been covered up, but if I zip overhead here, you'll get an idea of the floor plan as it was. We had our living room planned out here, we have our library there. Beneath our 3 greenhouses, we have some more living room. We have our kitchen right about there. We have our storage room over here. And we have an extra room here, our showroom here, our butterfly room here, and our bedroom over here. And we laid all of that out in one episode. Now this time, we didn't start by building our house from the outside in. We started building from the inside out. And we're actually still in the process of doing that. We still have one room back here on the first floor that is not finished. And even over here, we have doors that go to places that are just outside, and I want them to go somewhere else. Because over here, I want to eventually put our animals. But we started our house with the kitchen, because the kitchen is where everything has to happen for food. And so we have all of our food production right here in a custom little chiseled hearth with some clay ovens over top and a chimney. And I realized that I'm still kind of breaking my rule about the chimneys. I do need to come through and put a chimney above our house right above where this is, because I did say that I wanted to do that. I wanted to have chimneys poking out of the dirt wherever we have fireplaces or other locations where we burn stuff, like in the forge. We store our empty crocks up here. As you can see, we don't have a ton of them. Most of our crocks are downstairs full of food, and we also don't have as many as we had in the first season of the guide series. But I really enjoy the warm colors in here. The orange and the yellow kind of evoke, a warm hearth, a warm fire. And then to balance it, I put some corn flour in the corner. And on this corner, we have the sort of blue clay to offset all those orange colors. Lastly, we have a custom chiseled sink over here. It is fully functional, aside from the faucet doesn't work, but we can get water from here as needed. And yeah, it's a very handy little sink. Now, I wish I could say that our second room we built was the living room, but it was not. Instead, it was our storage room, this sort of barn-like structure where we house pretty much all of our storage. And so far, it's actually holding up pretty well. I was kind of convinced early on that we would never need more room. I'm kind of realizing that I may have given ourselves just enough room to store everything we need, at least with everything separated amongst the trunks and categorized. Like, most of these are pretty empty. So sure, we have plenty of room, physical room in the chests, but as far as keeping everything organized, I think we have just enough. But here is where I experimented with bringing in some of the sandstone from the kitchen into the floor and adding in some chert in place of the bauxite to give this room a distinct feel. We also decorated with our very first and actually only bismuth lanterns, and we also have some branchy and regular leaves overhead to give a bit of greenery to this room. This was before we had any planters and before we had any small trees, saplings, that we could plant in them. It might be worth coming through here and removing some of these because it is a bit cluttered, and it could be worth like putting planters here in the corners or next to the doorways to bring that green back into the room and keep it there. It wasn't until episode 21 that we came back here and we started our living room. We started and finished it, and I am still pretty pleased with how it looks. There are a few changes I want to make. I want to smooth this out and find another place for our lantern, but I really love this skylight. Look at that beam of light coming through there. Is that cool or what? I love it. But I had a blast designing this room. I think it's very cozy down here, and I like how we can come up here and sort of look out over the house. Like if we come home and we're, our friends in the kitchen and our buddies in the study over there reading books, like we have a really good view of the house. And in this room is where we really got into some serious chiseling for, I don't want to say the first time, but we really did get into the serious chiseling because this skylight up here is pretty detailed. It's kind of like a gem cut sort of thing here. And I am still really happy with how it came out. I do need to replace some of these with some grass. I need to figure out a way to make that work with this. But we custom chiseled a railing here, and some of the stairs here are custom pieces. And although I don't think we started it in this episode, this is the room where we really started building out our round door frames that we are now using everywhere in the house. We then spent several episodes adventuring, and when we came back, we started building our little Hobbit orchard out here. And we built our secondary farm, or our new primary farms, with Terra Preta. And we also set about finding a place to plant some trees here. And it looks like this year we will get probably enough fruit to last us into the next year. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to guess that this tree over here is not going to make it in the long run. That's fine. But we started our pathway up around here to the top of the house, which is still unconnected, but we will get around to connecting this up once we finish the upper floor of our house. And we put in this retaining wall, which I was kind of skeptical about at the time, but the more I see it, I think the happier I am with it, because it's actually kind of, to me, I don't notice it. It's kind of a very calm color, and so it doesn't really catch the eye, and I kind of wanted that. It's just a retaining wall. It's not supposed to be anything super special. So I'm happy that it's not like really standing out. I want the house to be what you see, not this wall. Of course, we built the wall first, and then we built the front of our house. We started with just this part of the house facade, and I really enjoyed putting this together. I designed this sort of in my head and then tried it in creative and brought it over. I still want to make some touch-ups here. We need to cover up some of these awkward bits, but we're kind of out of the right kind of wood. We need aged wood, or aged wood planks, to cover these up and sort of make these look a little better. So once we have some of those, we'll come through here and we will fix this up a little bit. But this, I think, is where we actually did the very first round door frame. I think we started on this door here, and I am super happy with how they're coming out. Now, this is actually the second iteration of the door frames. We started with a much rougher version that used only the, I believe, the 4x4 chisel size. And eventually I was like, you know what, let's make this a bit smoother, and we went all the way down to the 1x1 chisel resolution. This is also where we started the round windows, which we've kept for most of our house. We have a few windows that are not rounded off like this, but this is where we started that trend. Overall, I am very happy with how the front of our house came out. I feel like it really captures that sort of Hobbit hole feeling of, yeah, it's a hill, but it's definitely not just a hill. I had some suggestions that I could maybe hide this in the landscape more, but the point isn't to hide it. I want to be able to see it from the outside and actually have it be a house and look like one, but also be part of, the hill. So we then spent several episodes out mining, finding, and processing iron and meteoric iron, and it wasn't until episode 33 that we actually came back and worked on our house some more, and we built our bedroom. And here it is. We have a bright redwood floor. We have some muted claystone, polished claystone rock trim on the bottom part of the wall, or I guess wainscoting. And then we have the chiseled limestone with some little leaf patterns made from peridot white sand and polished rock. These were also the first 2x2 rounded windows we made. I think they look okay. They're not really round, but then again, you can't really get a fully round window in Vintage Story without a fully custom window, which spoils the room. Although this also spoils the room. And by spoil the room, I mean it doesn't allow this to be considered a room. So we are not protected from the cold in here, unfortunately. But luckily we spend about 10 seconds a day in here, so it's fine. But we have our bed and our little owl treasure chest right here. And then we have a closet that totally has stuff in it. Yep, it's got stuff in it. And then of course I brought in some larch slabs to bring a bright but colorful ceiling into the room. And once again, we have our round door frame, just like everywhere else in the house. Then we went on a bit of a building spree, and we built several parts of our house kind of all in a row. We did the leopard Dr. Octopus, the butterfly room. That's what it is. We built this butterfly room in episode 34, and we only had a couple butterflies at the time. I think we had these guys over here and maybe a couple of these white ones. And it might have just been these guys, I don't recall. But yes, it was a sort of empty butterfly room at the time. But we have since filled it with additional ones that we found while we were out looking for salt. But I really enjoy the blue stripe up here. I had a lot of fun designing this. It's a simple pattern, but it really brings something unique to the room that you don't see in every room in the house. We also built the exterior, which has a fire clay brick wall on the outside, and the trim around the windows. Instead of being the blue clay that we used over here, we are using the redwood again to match the door and some other elements in our house. Oh, and here's where all of our aged wooden slabs went. Well, well, well. But after the butterfly room, we came in here and we built this hallway. I'm actually really proud of this hallway. It's probably one of the more intricate pieces I've done. I haven't really done a whole lot of arch chiseling before, and it is a pain to do, but I think the result is worth it. But we built this hallway from start to finish, all the way to the end here, where we also built this little rear foyer and the rear door. And this is where we built our very first, or chiseled our very first fully round door using the 1x1 chisel resolution. And I am so happy that we converted to this because they just look so much better, and I don't get stuck on them. I used to sort of get stuck going through doors all the time, and I don't anymore. So really nice. But we kind of used a different palette here because here's where we started talking about using different styles and different colors to indicate areas of the house that were built at different times, or maybe even renovated at different times. And I'm kind of liking the sort of patchwork mishmash of different designs. We have, some of the blue clay bricks here with limestone stone bricks and fire clay bricks. And while it's all very chaotic, I feel like it really encapsulates the sort of whimsy of being a Hobbit. But kind of the star of this show, and I've gotten a lot of comments on it, is this rug, this runner that we made. And this is simply done by adding in some chert and some sandstone to the aged wood slabs and chiseling in a bit of a simple pattern. But I think this really helps make the hallway feel like a hallway that's been lived in. In episode 36, we finally came down here, and we finally started actually digging out our basement. That includes our actual cellar here, as well as this hallway and our transmission room down here. And for our designs, we went with a mixture of Swaylite cobblestone and granite cobblestone, along with some granite stone brick, and sort of mixed those up to make it look like this was built with, different kinds of rock, maybe patched over the years. We have some brick sort of interspersed here, and then a very simple but functional cellar, where we do all of our honey squeezing and our milk processing. And this, I guess, is our sort of salting and brining area over here. And then this, of course, is where we store all of our food. We have all of our prepped food up here, and then all of our raw food under here. And then we came in here and we built out this transmission room. We didn't fill this with anything at the time. We just made the room, we put the walls in, put the ceiling in, but these gears didn't come in until a good bit later, in fact, much more recently. And so we just let this sit empty for a while, and we aren't done here. This room is large for a reason, and it is still empty, of course, as you can see. that means we have work to do in this room, and some of it's going to be functional. I want to put our corn somewhere a bit more useful here and a bit faster. Oh, we have salt. Cool. And I also want to put a pulverizer in here, and then maybe decorate it with like a tinker's bench over here and put some of the interesting clutter we've gotten from ruins in this room, as if this is sort of our everything mechanical room. After the cellar was done, we moved from the bottom of the house to the top, and we came up here and we built our 3 greenhouses. And these are our sort of new powerhouse farms. Our farms out front are decent, but these have a bit of a longer growing season, and they are just generally more reliable. Also, they're about twice the size of the farms out front. We built most of it out of chert cobblestone and chert stone bricks, and I used some larch slabs to help sort of brighten this space up here. And then larch pillars to just sort of add a bit of a neutral color that had some interest in it. In that same episode, we also talked about plans for what to do with this hallway, and that is we are going to be using this as a bit of a perpendicular hallway for the upstairs to the downstairs one. So we're going to have like a central connection area right here in the living room, and this will sort of be how we navigate north and south, whereas the hallway downstairs is how we navigate east and west in the house. And although these farms look like they have no water, by the way, we have our water hidden in waterlogged slabs here and under the walls here. There's water in several of these, and sometimes if you look close you can catch a glimpse of it. But not today, apparently. In episode 40, we started actually building out our hill. For the longest time, we kind of had a squat little bunch of buildings with no roofs on them. And so episode 40 came along and we started doing some serious terraforming and turning this from just another house in a ditch into a proper hobbit hole. And we talked about how we're going to design this going forward with having this area be covered up by dirt, but also have an actual ceiling here made of like wood planks and stone or something. We also talked about where we'll be having our windmill, which would come very shortly. And so we made sure to keep a clear space right up here for it, based on where our shafts were coming out of the transmission room and up through our house to the outside. In episode 41, immediately after finishing our terraforming, we started building our windmill. And I am really happy with the combination of colors we chose and the design, especially now that we have sails up there. But I had a vision in mind, and I really love how it came out. Let me get over to this side where we don't have as many falling hazards. But I really wanted to play with getting a lot more colors in here underneath the dirt. So we used a lot of earth tones along with some slight variations. So we have a very, very earth tone clay stone, a cooler earth tone walnut plank, a bright earth tone sandstone, and then some redwood, which isn't really an earth tone, but it isn't very saturated either. So I think it really fits the vibe here. Then of course we covered that up with some more of the sod roofing we've been using everywhere on the house. And then we started building the actual tower out of limestone and some cracked limestone, which I think works really, really well. It's so much nicer to look at than the cobblestone, I think. And all the way up to the roof, where we again have some more sod, and where we repeated the same colors as down below. And we left the trim up there a bit coarser and wider because since we're going to be farther away down here, it would seem like it was smaller than down here if we actually left it its normal size, or we matched the size down here. So that's why we have much coarser and larger chiseling work up here than down here. In episode 42, we finally fully moved out of the old house way over there because we had been using that for our blacksmithing area, and we finally built our very own blacksmith in here, mostly to house our hellhammer, but also to house everything else. And boy, you are going like crazy. Look at that turn. But I figured since this place was going to be very fiery, I kept with the theme and went with some very bright, bold, fiery colors, aka the baked bean floor. Thank you, you commenters, you know who you are. And then in the walls we have some fire clay bricks with some red chert rock in the background. And then it is all lined with basalt, which of course is made from volcanic flows. So all in all, very thematic. And I really enjoyed building this, and I really enjoy using it. This is actually very pleasant to use, even though sometimes at night, if I'm out here hammering away, I get visitors at the doors, and they're like, bleh, bleh. It's fine. It's fine. Now we have left this part open back here because this is going to be where we eventually put our cementation furnaces. And I'm thinking I might also put some other odds and ends back here. Maybe a longer rack and maybe an actual, rack or something to put our molds on for pouring. But I think I might also eventually put some kit kilns back here to have them closer to home. We don't currently have any pit kilns out here, and I haven't done any firing for a very long time because I did a lot of preparation a long time ago. But right now, the only pit kilns we have are back over at the old house. But I do enjoy how this forge came out. I enjoy how these little archways came out over our chests. And we even have a little functional chimney. Let's go take a look. There it is. Very simple, but it keeps the drifters out and lets the smoke out and fresh air in. So I think we're going to see a few more of these probably over here once we have our cementation furnaces. And I might even put some wherever our pit kilns are as well. And in the episode after our Hellhammer build, we came downstairs where we finally actually put in most of the stuff that we now see here. We did have the large gear, but this large gear fed out directly into our Hellhammer, and we came in and we instead are now driving another large gear's central axle from the output, or outer edges of our initial large gear, and we are now driving the Hellhammer from the output, or outer edges of that one, for a 1-to-5 overdrive. And that lets our Hellhammer run at this pace over here. We have a wind rating of Storm. That is pretty darn fast. There is still more we could actually power with. We could use some more windmills to catch more wind, because this needs basically about 5 windmills to run at maximum speed, which should be about 5 times the speed of a single Hellhammer. Now, all of that was in preparation for a big journey, one that we actually just recently got back from. We went a long ways away to the Resonance Archive. And that puts us right here, right where we built a temporary shelter away from home, and where our frame rate really takes a dive. But we built a little shelter here using the green stone. Right, there was a baby bunny that sneaked into the house. And we put together in basically one day, after arriving here, we built our little home away from home. And I really enjoyed experimenting with peridotite, or peridotite, as it were. I don't usually build with it, and I find it to be a very difficult color to make it look good. But I really think that with the combination of kapok and the limestone here, I think it actually works really well. We built a secondary hobbit hole, so we have the same kind of grassy roof. And we do, of course, have a chimney sticking out of our little hobbit hole away from home here. And our trees have grown, too. I planted some trees here that didn't grow till we left. And then, of course, we came up this huge mountain here. I've learned since that the Resonance Archive does always spawn in a mountain, because it is so huge, it simply has to. And in fact, it will actually create a mountain range where it spawns, if there isn't one already. But we came into the Great Resonance Archive and all the way down into its depths, its repeating depths, which I have since learned, pointed out by a lot of you guys, that this repetition here is intentional, as well as the rooms that had some strange, glitched out repetition in them. They were intentional because of the sort of weirdness of time and space. And by the way, this thing out here, which we didn't actually get to go see, is a giant thing. And I have no idea what it's supposed to be, but it's all made of weird black stone, and it has no collision. So yeah, I've explored this a little bit. I was very interested by it. I think it's a giant resonator, actually. See the spines? Looks just like the big old resonator in the library, and the ones you can buy or make. But yeah, I think this is a giant resonator. If only I had a lantern big enough to illuminate it all. But we made our way through this great dungeon, where we started by, well, kind of noodling about before we realized we had to come into the engineering room in order to fire up the boiler, if I can find the darn place. Engineering, here it is. Hey, there we go. Now we can see. But yes, we spent basically 3 episodes touring, I say touring, but exploring this giant place and eventually making our way up into the library. But we finally made it into this amazing library, and I am still gobsmacked at the level of detail and the thought that went into designing this place. So kudos to Tyron and whoever else worked on this. This is some amazing work. And although we're probably not going to be returning to this place again in this season, I thought it'd be fun to come back for a brief little visit, even though it hasn't really been all that long. And that brings us back to our home. After about, I think it was 4 or 5 in-game days, I spent ferrying junk back and forth, and then had a temporal storm, and it was a mess. We came back home, and after taking a look at all of our cool stuff, we built this library just a couple episodes ago, and I am really liking how our library came out. I enjoy the walnut with the redwood. I think it's a great combination. And we have a little parquet floor here, and a sort of gold-lined or brass-lined desk. I might look at finding a different material to put here. Maybe like bauxite would be better, even though it wouldn't really be like metal then. Maybe it'd be copper, very well-waxed copper, I suppose. But yeah, in better light, this actually kind of looks like it blends in a bit too much. I'd like to see maybe some kind of better definition. While we could make a block of, say, brass or tin bronze to put here, each of those blocks, and there are 3 blocks here, each block takes 6 plates to make, which is 12 ingots. So we would need 36 ingots just to line this desk with metal. I don't have that kind of time nor materials at my disposal at the moment. But aside from that, I am, yes, very happy with how this came out. And we put this cool little bird statue here. This, what's it called? Horus statuette. That is a very fun design. I like that a lot. And then, of course, just last episode, we came in and we made an improvement first to the butterfly room, where we have Defro 5's new slanted display cases mod that tilts the butterflies and whatever else is in them to actually be viewable and visible when you're standing next to them rather than being on top of them. And man, it is such a great change. Hello, Bert. It's been a while since we did anything with Bert. And then, in the rest of the episode, we then filled out this room here. We built it first, then filled it out. This is the gallery or showroom. And I like the sort of warm color. I think the chert here works really well because it has the chert outside, so it doesn't really clash. It kind of just blends into it a little bit, if you're looking out the window, that is. But I think this is a fun room. We have a nice bright floor and ceiling, and rather muted decorations on the walls. In fact, we really don't have any wall decoration at all. It's all so that all of the cool things in the room can really take the spotlight. And we brought back some awesome stuff from the Resonance Archive. Now, I do think that this, by the way, is not a bug with this mod. The fact that the pocket knife is kind of sunk in there, as well as this Zoolite, is it called? Yes. That is, I think, an issue with the model of the Zoolite, because both of these were kind of really hard to notice and really tiny, like this little flat piece, when they were in the original display case. And even the skull, with the skull on the ground, you can see it's much larger than what appears up here, I think. Oh, come on. Look at me. There we go. Yeah, see, it's sort of sunk halfway into the model there, but that's not something that we can fix. Someone call Tyron, quick. But yes, we have filled up this room, and we only have one more room to go in the house on this floor. We have our sort of extra living room here. I know I've been calling it the sort of eventual chisel room, but it's a little bit small for a chisel room, so I might turn this into something else and have like a dedicated chiseling spot somewhere else, although I haven't really needed that lately. Well, everyone, that concludes our tour of our world up to this point. I hope you enjoyed the review of all the things we've built and all the things we've done from episodes 1 to 49 of the Vintage Story Guide Season 2. I hope you're looking forward to what's going to come next, not just in the following next episodes, but for many to follow. But before we go, I'm going to give you all a good parting shot of the whole little place here I would say just the house, but there's more than a house, both during the day and at night. So let's go take a look. So here we have our entire little Hobbit hole during the day. I love all the green grass everywhere. Our little backyard needs to be filled up. And of course we have all these things in the distance. We have our original house. We have our little barn. We have those wild floating mountains in the distance. And yeah, that is our home thus far. Let's see what it looks like at night. Wow, look at that. The soft glow of all of our lanterns. You can just barely see the road down there. And then we come to our house here. You can just make out the windmills turning above the house. What a view. What a view indeed. Well, everyone, that's going to do it for the episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments. And let me know what you're most excited for. Are you looking forward to steel making? Are you looking forward to seeing the house filled out? Are you looking forward to more adventures? Let me know. I'd be curious. And as always, my name has been Corazar. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.